I'm Allison. Today we're going to talk about how to trust yourself when everyone's opinions feel louder. This has been my life. I'm much better now at having a firm foundation and recognizing others' opinions as separate from my own. But I was not most of my life. It's taken some time to really work on how I develop that and hold it. So I know it really well, and I think it's a really important topic of conversation for women in general, especially for sensitive women. It's a really, really common thing. So if you've ever felt like I don't ever know how to securely stand within my own thoughts or my opinions, I feel like I'm constantly in someone else's narratives or minds or listening to them, and they always feel really loud and confident and should listen to them, and it makes sense in my mind, well, then you're in the right place. That's what we're going to talk about today, because you really can learn how to trust yourself when everyone's opinions feel louder. All right, so by the end of these 15-ish minutes, you're going to have just a really zoned in practical way to come back and to start to understand the concept of trusting yourself versus being swayed by everyone's opinions or listening to all the other opinions. This is something that like I said, very, very familiar with this topic, like so familiar, it's ridiculous. And anytime I get into any new space, it comes up again. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with me. It just means that I am a highly sensitive person. I'm very in tune to other people's thoughts on things, to other people's experience with things. I'm very in tune to how they might be perceiving and understanding, which has always made it feel like how I don't know how to hold all this information, because one person's experience and opinion is so different than another person's experience and opinion, and I'm told so often by conventional approaches that I have to just pick one. I have to say you're right or I'm right. Right, like just get clear on what you think and be very solid in it, and it has to be very narrow and look like this. That's kind of usually the basis for how we work with opinions and thoughts and the differences between them, which is for people like me and you, that makes it really hard to ever feel like how do I stand in a space of trusting myself when I can't even like lock down and nail down my how I hold all these differing thoughts and opinions. And when one person's loud, I really sway towards it because they feel really confident. But then I can hear another person that has, I have just as much space for them, and it can make us feel really like all over the place. And there's just so much to think about. That's why I think, especially for people like us, what we can ground ourselves in and how we actually learn to experience trusting ourselves in relation to other people's louder opinions or thoughts, and differentiating from them. The way that we really do that is by seeing the bigger picture, seeing what our beautiful gifting is, and seeing how, like, what is trust exactly, and how do we stand in a space that we can identify as trust, and giving ourselves like something to stand on despite being able to hold capacity for all the things. So let me explain this. All right, let me draw it. That's what I really meant to say. All right, so let's just say that you are here. La 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 la. And you have someone over here saying something that they're very, very passionate about. And it's like forceful and opinionated and loud. And let's just take it as simple as that for a second. And you're like, okay, well, this person is saying this thing, and there is a part of me that is like, yeah, okay, that feels right. That feels right because you seem to know what you're talking about. You seem confident in that information. So sure, like that, yeah, that feels correct. That is the part of us that is trying to connect, and it's trying to find some kind of grounding and something to stand on, and something where we can say, okay, I can rest because I can trust. Trust and rest really go hand in hand. It's like if I trust something, then I can kind of like lay it to rest in my mind and I don't have to think about it. Well, what the thing is, when we're really sensitive or very empathic, what we like to often do, and we don't know it because it's in our subconscious, what we really often like to do is we like to hand that over. We like to hand over the trust to someone else because then we can just kind of like sit back and rest, but we don't have to necessarily hold responsibility of that opinion. And then if it's like a loud opinion that someone else has a problem with, we can be like, well, I don't know. It's not exactly mine. It's not exactly my ownership. We're really fast to hand over the ownership of loud opinions because ownership of loud opinions is vulnerable. It is vulnerable and it can feel scary to have opinions. It can feel scary to have like a thing that you stand on and you say, this is what I think. Period. End of story. It's what I think. And let that be visible because that feels like, well, then I can become, people can come back at me and have an opinion about that. And then I'm going to feel like I don't really know what I'm talking about. So, what's really happening here is that this space of ownership, it just hasn't been taught how to stand firmly within itself. Like, you may have actually been taught early on at a younger age that it wasn't even right for you to trust yourself. Like, I know that that was my experience in my religious upbringing. The idea was like, you can't trust your heart, you can't trust your mind. So because that has such a weight to it, there's so much weight of, oh no, I can't take the responsibility of a loud opinion. I can't take the responsibility of holding, very strongly to this thought because that, first of all, I could see how there are other opinions, and second of all, that's dangerous and scary. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's an ownership thing of, how do I hold a thought? How do I hold a thought and let it be mine and let it be something that I can be like, yeah, I trust that. You don't have experience with trust. You don't understand a feeling of, how do I stand in a space of trust? How do I give myself then that rest of that feeling of trust when everything I've done up to this point in my life has been putting it outside of me, putting it in the ones that feel confident or sound confident, or I feel like, maybe you know what you're talking about. If you have so much experience of putting it outside of you, you just don't have the strength built in here of understanding that you can have opinions and they don't even have to be forceful. They can be opinions that are just like, I have a thought to hold a lot of thoughts. It's interesting how we're not really taught the ways in which we can think are so varied and so different, and we're all wired so differently. Like, some people are really wired to hold very energetically to strong, specific, like, this is it, this is what I think, that's it, da, 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 da. And some people, like me, probably like you, are wired to hold a lot of opinions and a lot of space for a lot of people, and we weren't taught how to hold that in a way that we can trust our space holding and we can trust the opinions that create that hold our great big hearts, because we're like the peacekeepers of the world. We're the ones that kind of allow all of it to grow. We're the fertile soil of all the ideas. I'm going really poetic on you here. So all that to say, there's a couple places that you can really start if you want to start learning how to kind of like hold ideas, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels vulnerable, even when it feels a little scary about other people's thoughts and what they might do. It's practicing the feeling of holding and practicing the feeling of like it's safe, and trust is the safety thing. So when I come down to like the wire of in a really granular way of trust, like, what does that mean in my body? What does it look like? I like to go to nature. I like to go to things that give me an experience that I've already had, that I know, because trust is about kind of knowing. It's like a knowing and a resting. So, what's something that I can say I know? Maybe I don't know some of these other thoughts and opinions so loudly. What do I know? How do I practice the feeling of knowing and resting in that? Well, I know that if I walk on the ground, I'm not going to fly off into the air. I trust gravity. I trust the support of the earth. I trust that my heart's beating even when I don't tell it to. I trust that I'm breathing. Even though sometimes I think I'm holding my breath, I'm not. Actually, my body continues to function in a way that's holding me, that's supporting me. I don't even think about things like my little pinky toe, and yet it's continually turning cells over and helping me in my stance and helping me in my movement and helping me with my day, even though I don't know it. These are all things within my realm, within my body, within my experience. They're all things that I can say, oh yeah, of course. And that's what trust feels like. Trust feels like, oh yeah, of course. Of course. Right. I'm not like worried about, is my heart beating? I'm just like, yeah, of course. That's the feeling of trust. So you can practice the feeling that you experience with that word. Practice the feeling that you experience with that word and start to pull it out in moments. Like, okay, do I know some things? Maybe I say, I know about something that I find out, and it doesn't have to do with not worrying about all the interactions, because that brings other things to mind that you're trying to figure out inside your body, but just like something and throughout your day, like, oh yeah, I know that I'm gonna give myself food today. Maybe I know something like kind of philosophically, or maybe I know that these things about myself. What's something that I know, and it feels like oh, of course, in my body. That's a feeling of trust. That is something that you're trusting. So start to like turn your mind to like, oh, I experienced trust here today. I experienced trust here in this space today. Oh, this is the feeling of trust. Look, body, we're experiencing trust within our own sphere of influence, not relating to anybody else. Look, we can experience trust within my own realm. The more you build that, the more you listen to it and look at it, the more you're strengthening it and building it. And the more you build it and strengthen it, the more you're going to get into conversations with it and be able to see the separation. Like, oh, right, that person thinks that thing, but I know things. I actually did that when I was first learning all this. I would just do that. I'd be like, oh, I know things. And I wouldn't necessarily say it to anybody else. I would just say it to myself, but it was a feeling of, oh yeah, I do know things. I can trust that some of these things feel very true to me. I can feel that feeling of rest, be like, oh, right. So it's a practice of a feeling. It's a practice of a sensation. It's repeating it to ourselves regularly so that we see it, that we feel it, and then it's bringing in little pieces of like, well, okay, maybe there's this thing that I don't entirely know how to trust yet. Well, that's where you work with your mind, and that's where you work with your heart and sensations and learn how you actually do align and evolve this area of you that is your stewardship and your ownership. That's the kind of stuff that's like all the next pieces, right? So what I'm talking about here is at a really basic level, learning to feel the feeling of sensation of trust in yourself, to build it so that you can hear yourself and know yourself outside of other people's and see the differentiation. But it is a bigger process of learning yourself to know all these things, to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. The layers just keep going. They're so exciting. It's like a detective work. It's so much fun. It's total play. That's the kind of stuff that we do in my mentorship program, because it can be hard to do with yourself on your own to get to those deeper levels. So that is the kind of stuff that we go into. And if you're interested in that, please click the link in the description below. I have a place where you can book a call with me to find out about the one-on-one mentorship program that I have. It's totally free. I do only work with a few committed women at a time. So if you're interested in that and you're like, yeah, I want to start having this kind of life where I can experience solidity in myself and trust in myself and strength and confidence, I want that, and I want it sooner than later, not months and years away, then you need to book the call. Please come and talk. It's going to be no pressure whatsoever, but it's going to be awesome to get some other eyes on your life with you. So remember, when you feel like, oh, all I'm doing is listening to everybody else's opinions, or I feel swayed, by everybody else and all the things they're saying, come back to a feeling of, what is trust? Where do I recognize it? Where do I recognize it within my own choices and my own thoughts and my own feelings and my own body's experience? Come back to learning that and continually like turning your focus to it, and it will grow and it will build. If you like stuff like this, keep checking out my channel. I draw a lot of things. I talk about a lot of things that are super deep, having to do with our inner world. You might want to check out, there's a video on how to receive abundance when trauma makes you contract. That's a really good one. And there are other ones that talk about just the connection between our brain and our body and our sensations and how we see things, how we look at it, how we understand what we're working with. I would love to know what your experience with this is. I'm very curious. And I will be back on here for more conversations, helping you navigate connecting your smart brain to your wise body so you can live happy, strong, and free.